Hey guys, today we're going to look at some different examples of Middle Eastern architecture and how it's different from ours. And then what we're going to do is we are going to create our own castle that's in the style of some Middle Eastern architecture. So grab a piece of paper and a pencil and let's get started. What you're going to do to start is draw a horizon line. That is the line where the sky meets the ground, and that's just going to help us to know where our castle stops. Like our castle will be up in that sky portion, and then this will be kind of the front lawn area of our castle. The next thing I want you to do is draw a rectangle or a square, and that's going to be the front entrance of your castle. You can make it as tall or as short, as skinny or as wide as you want, but this is really going to be like the front entryway. Do you want any towers on the sides of your castle? Do you want a wall in the front? A tower might be a long, skinny rectangle like this. We're just kind of doing the very simple shapes of it. I like to make my castle be symmetrical and be the same on each side so it's matching, right? And then what I could also do is maybe I'll have a wall that goes in the front of mine. So I'm going to have a wall that goes in the front. Is how are people going to get into your castle? If you have a wall in the front, you'll need a door or a gate here. If you don't have a wall in the front, your gate would be right on that first square. So something that's unique to Middle Eastern architecture is that the doors and the walls aren't just square on top like we see here. Like if you look at the doorways in your house, you can see that they're kind of flat on top. A lot of Middle Eastern architecture is kind of rounded at the top. So one way to do that is if you make it kind of your half circle, that rounded top first, and then you can draw your straight lines that go down on either side. What you also want to think about is all the ornate decorations that a lot of these castles had on them. Their doorway was not just a simple doorway like this. It would have kind of this border that comes around it on the doors and the windows. You can make this door have wooden beams that go down it or be kind of like bars. Maybe it's a drawbridge and you've got ropes on either side. You can also think about windows. Windows would be that kind of same shape too. Sometimes their windows and their towers are simply circles. And you could do, again, that border because you want your castle to match. So I'm going to draw my windows on either side. And right now we're just doing all the big details. So maybe I can put some windows in here. I'm going to put some windows similar to this. So I'm going to kind of make my dot and kind of a curve on either side. And it's okay if they're a little bit different. You might find it a little bit easier to make it more of a diagonal or just a rounded edge. And you could put windows all the way across, maybe windows in your gate that comes all the way across. Something Middle Eastern architecture has too is on the tops of their towers and of their buildings, they sometimes have a dome or another turret, some kind of top to it. So when I teach this to my students, I tell them really to think about that Hershey kiss, and sometimes they like to draw it from the bottom where they draw that curve that goes out on either side, and then it kind of swoops up like this too. And that's fine to do it that way. You could do your windows that way too. A lot of times it makes a lot more squashy and Hershey kiss looking. Not quite so long like a window. I could do that on this bottom part. Maybe these curves go way out here past the edges of the towers. That's going to help this part to look like it's in front of those towers. And I can add the curve that goes down. And again, you're erasing any lines you don't really need anymore. Like that. And then we're going to go through and add some more details. If you wanted parts of your buildings to look like they were made out of brick, that's pretty easy to do if you start by making horizontal lines that go across whatever you want to turn into brick. So right now I'm turning my front wall so that it looks like brick. what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of draw a dash that goes along. So depending on how big you want your bricks to be, if I want these to be kind of smaller bricks, I'm going to kind of space them as evenly as I can, but they don't have to be perfect. But then my next row of bricks, it's not going to line up with that line, it's going to go in between these lines. So in between the lines, if it's kind of close, you can make it up a little bit. And then the next row will go in between these lines. So it doesn't have to line up with this bottom one, but I don't want to match up with either of these two. So I want to go in between those two lines. Now you could continue your brick on your towers and on the base of your castle and things like that, but you don't really need to. It's okay if your buildings have different textures on them. What you can do too is you can leave these turrets just one solid color, but if you wanted them to be striped, you could kind of start by putting a line down the middle, and then you mimic that curve going to the side, and then this side would go the opposite direction. And now you have kind of a striped turret. You can also make them look kind of more diagonally spiraled on there too, if you want to start in one spot and kind of like make it go all to the same curved direction. Either way would be okay. You could add more details like some decorations around your windows, a staircase, anything you want in there. We just want to make sure we're thinking about being really kind of decorative and over the top. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys to do is, because this is a castle and we want to maybe fly flags on our castles, we can put some kind of like flag poles that go right up from our tower. So I'm going to draw one on each tower. These ones that are farther away might be a little bit smaller, and that's okay. You can decorate them with, maybe they have a couple spheres or circles on theirs as part of their decoration, and that would be okay too. I'm going to erase that little part in the middle because you really don't need to see it. And then if we want to show a flag, you could do something as easy as just drawing a triangle that comes straight out like this, right? That would look like a flag, and it could go in either direction. If I wanted my flag to be kind of gently flowing in the breeze, what I would do is I would draw a zigzag line, but it's nice and curvy. It kind of goes out and snakes back and then continues on going. So it's kind of like a winding road. Again, it's going to go out to one side. It could go this way too and kind of curves back in and goes out again. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a second line, and it's going to gradually get closer to that end. So out here we're going to keep it nice and wide, and we're going to kind of mimic that curve before we make it touch the end. So I'm going to come towards it. I'm going to do that same curve and then let this one gradually touch it. And that kind of makes our flag look like it's blowing in the breeze. You could do this on all of them. You could just do it on one. You could make some like spikes or flags that go along this part too. That's up to you. I've had students make this look like uneven brick all the way across. However much details you want to put in is fantastic. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to think about the grounds of our castle and the sky. Now, in that picture of the Taj Mahal that I showed you guys, you see that there's a big wading pool right out here in the front. So you could do something like that where you draw your diagonal lines that come out, and then this is a big pool. I think on mine I'm going to make a moat that goes across, and then if this is my drawbridge, we'll have that nice and open. So I think I'm going to start with that. So if this is the opening and I want my drawbridge to kind of come across it, I want to make sure I'm showing where that goes first. And if it has a pointed top here, it should have a pointed top down here. And then I need my moat, of course. So I'm going to draw my lines across. I don't want to draw it way over here because my bridge wouldn't reach. So I'm going to draw my moat that goes all the way across. To help me remember that it's water, I'm going to put some water lines that are just kind of like W's. You can do those water lines any way you want. Maybe you want to make it look like there's an alligator in there or something like that. That's totally up to you. I'm going to make this door nice and fancy too, and have that little extra design. Maybe in my door there's a window so they can see who has come to knock on the door. If I wanted to put the chains on here, I could just do a really dark line like this. I could also make circles that overlap each other, and that's going to look like a chain that's reaching from one spot to the next so that they could pull their door back up. You could have grass down here, you could have a desert, you could have a scene where there are people waiting to get in. That's totally up to you. Usually when I teach this, we talk about making the sky look like it's got a lot of color and fireworks, because a lot of times on the insides of these Middle Eastern castles, they have really beautiful tapestries or fabrics hanging from the walls, and they're super colorful. So what I'm going to challenge you to do is to make a design of maybe concentric circles or like shell type shapes that kind of are smaller and get bigger as you go through. I'm going to do circles because I have a lot of circles in my design, and honestly, circles are pretty easy to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle, and then a concentric circle is just where it gets gradually bigger as it goes around. And that kind of reminds me of fireworks. And I can start anywhere on the paper. But here where it goes behind my castle, I'm not going to draw it on top of my castle. I'm going to make sure I stop when I get to the castle. I can keep going, but I'm going to make it stop when it gets behind here so they look like they're overlapping. And that's going to give that illusion of a lot of things going on in the sky at different layers. So again, if I put one here, I want it to go behind my flag. And this one takes a little bit longer to do, and if you choose to color this, it might take you all week to color it because you'll do a little bit every day, but they are really amazing and colorful when you're all done. So you can see how the flag goes in front of it, and I've got the sky in the background. And I'm going to keep going with this design until the whole sky is filled up. You don't have to do it on your background, on your grass or your ground. You don't have to do it in your sky. You don't have to do it on your castle. But I want you to do all your sky parts. And really, that's this thin line here, back here, and the thin line down there. You don't have to do it inside your windows because maybe that's seeing into your castle. So again, your design is just in the sky. Coloring in your background, it really does work best if you do a 2 or 3 color alternating pattern. So here I've got red, and then I'm going to do orange, and then yellow. And if there's more circles, I would repeat those same 3 colors or 2 colors. They don't have to be in a color family. They can just kind of be whatever colors you want to pair together. But it will look a little bit more organized if there's some kind of pattern in each one. You can outline your background circles with Sharpie too if you want, but it makes it a little bit difficult to see what you're doing. So sometimes what I just do is, if I want that outline, I'll take whatever I'm using to color it in with, crayon, colored pencil, marker, and I could do a really thin outline around it then. But again, it doesn't need an outline, especially if you outlined your castle. You don't need an outline on it.